100% propaganda.
Yes.
They should be shut down, especially your efforts on Brexit. And the rubbish 52-48% load of nonsense that you gave the British public. 70-30%.
Talk to you about the farming.
Are you a farmer?
Are you a farmer? Do you want to talk?
I'm not a farmer, but I can tell you it's all about depopulation, a part of Agenda 2030, if you're interested.
No, we're covering farming.
It's all written in United Nations to Agenda 2030. Famine, pestilence, war.
Sure. I was at the UN General Assembly, so yeah, I was
The beef between farmers and the UK government is growing. Today, thousands travelled to Westminster as, despite protests and plea, Keir Starmer doubles down on the tractor tax that many families say will force them to sell up.
It's the start of breaking up the great British countryside. It would see the end of our family farms slowly, not immediately, but bit by bit.
Because it's already happening. Supermarkets are just killing small businesses. It's happened in Oundle. Waitrose came. We had a really lovely food shops, proper greengrocers that had to close because everybody wants everything. Everyone wants convenience.
For example, my daughters one day came home with a Starbucks coffee. Yeah, everybody likes a Starbucks coffee. Yeah, I went absolutely nuts. I said, get that out of my house. Why, Dad? It's really nice. It might be very nice. I'm not denying that. But I was paying more corporation tax with my 3 or 4 employees at the time than Starbucks in its sheer global size. What's that about? How would you feel that you've worked hard all your life to buy something, pay for something, pay the mortgage off on it, and along comes the government and goes, you know what, we'll have some of that for free.
Farmers are protesting because from April 2026, farms more than £1 million will have to pay inheritance tax at a reduced 20% rate. However, the threshold rises to £3 million for some couples passing farms down to their children. The government says fewer than 500 farms per year will be affected, whilst the National Farmers Union estimate many more.
Keir Starmer has got his facts wrong. He's putting the figures onto the wrong things and not looking at them properly. They have been ill-informed. I was lucky enough to be born into farming, although at the moment it doesn't feel very lucky. My family farm has been within the family since the 1930s, and it's one that we have nurtured and treasured throughout the generations and passed down and down and down. This tax would mean that we'd have to sell off land to keep our business going, and that would mean our farm is no longer viable. It's already small enough and struggling to make a living, not because we don't want to pay ourselves, but because our produce just simply is not worth enough, and that needs to change now.
How would previous generations of your family farm feel about this?
My grandfather recently passed away in April, and I for one can tell you he is rolling right now. He would not stand for this, and neither would the generations before. It's not a job that pays you very well, it is quite literally a lifestyle. Food doesn't come from your supermarket shelves, it comes from the fields of earth.
If you were to break it down, how does it make its way from the fields of earth to the supermarket?
If you're going for your crops, you've got the seed suppliers, you've then got the farmers that take those seeds, it then goes to your merchant, and it then goes to the people that are going to sell it, and then to your supermarket, to your consumers. Whether that's in your Rice Krispies, Weetabix, it could be any food, if I'm honest. You think of it, a farmer produces it. That's just my farm. I think the maths is pretty evident here, and in the long term, this could affect anywhere between 70,000 farms or more.
Most farms, I think, are probably asset rich but cash poor, and so come the time that the farm changes hands and somebody's died, they're now imposing a 20% tax on the death of the farmer, and quite simply they don't have the money to pay that tax. So what's going to happen?
I have no idea. No idea how. No, I've no idea. Why would they disrespect? Like, it's a whole way of life that they're disrespecting. We're here for her. I've got 4 children and they're all involved in the farming industry.
How do you feel about the taxes they're placing on you?
I feel
it's very bad. I feel like the farmers industry is going to drop. It's just, no.
This is my son, the first one, Richard. The middle one is Sophie, who's only 1 year old. And the end one is Matthew, he's 4 years old. In a few weeks, I've never seen so many. You go to a cattle market or a farmer's meeting, it's like a funeral. They're gutted. I do think that one of the reasons they've put this tax on is because there's a loophole in the tax system. Some extremely wealthy businessmen with millions of pounds have bought agricultural land so they can hide it from the taxman. Mention no names. It's not me.
Who is it?
Oh, it's James Dyson, Jeremy Clarkson. He hasn't earned it from farming.
How do you feel about Jeremy Clarkson being here today?
Well, he's done a fantastic job. Yeah, you know, he's brought the world's media here, which is, you know, that is good. At the moment, the British countryside is doing a huge amount for the planet. You know, it is offsetting carbon. Livestock is probably one of the best things on the planet. It's producing food, and there's grass there to put it back to. That is hugely important because climate change is here to stay.
Just use oil. Yeah, if we don't just use oil, what are we going to have as an alternative? We can't rely on wind farms and solar panels. What happens when all the lights go out and we've got no power? That's going to happen. Okay, and what about the cost of the food? We're not going to have any food either. It's going to be a shortage. Wake up, people, wake up.
How do you feel about the taxes placed on farmers?
Terrible, terrible. It's a land grab. They want the land to put the solar panels in and all the wind farms. No way. We can't allow it to happen.
Literally, it's a land grab. I've come down from Birmingham today. I'm representing the Indian farmers from India. And I've seen what's happening here with the British farmers, exactly what they tried with the Indian farmers. The farmers clocked onto it in Punjab, the Sikh farmers, and they protested once when they worked out what was going on, what these are now. People are working out. There's a big corporate takeover on land. I mean, even if you look at here now, I mean, Bill Gates was here a week before the budget was brought out. Bill Gates is here, next on his budget's come out and they brought these new laws out for these farmers and that. And a lot of the family farmers ain't going to be able to afford the inheritance tax, they put them into debt. And that's what they did in India, they put the farmers into debt and they gave people interest-free loans. The only way you can get away from the debt is actually commit suicide. So a lot of farmers in India committed suicide. So it's coming back to England. Literally, this is what the government are doing here, and I think the farmers are clocking on now. They've robbed us, the bloody thieves.
The old age pensioners, they've got their winter allowance stopped. It's terrible. Come on, we've all got to pull together on this one.
Would you support a blockade by farmers?
I think that they could do that, and yes, I would, yes.
How would a farmer blockade differ to a Just Stop Oil blockade?
Yeah.
The police are mafia henchmen. I used to always think the police were here to look after people and deal with crime. They don't. The police look after the evil bastards at the top of the food chain. So I don't trust the police at all.
A farmer blockade. Well, I mean, the farmers, they will stop producing or bringing the food to market. And there's Just Stop, and you're saying Just Stop Oil?
They also do blockades.
Well, I mean, what can you do? Trump's got the right idea, hasn't he? Start drilling. We've got lots of oil in the North Sea. We could use that rather than import it. That isn't the right way to do it.
What about climate change?
Climate change? Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense, climate change.
Cool. Thank you. Have a good day.
I researched all this stuff years ago. The whole thing, the whole scam, is Starmer and Blair a part of the Marxist Communist Fabian Society, which is a Marxist Communist conscript, which is also a Zionist conscript. Yeah. So all this stuff you're watching now, going on now, the thing on the farmers and everything else, the taxes, the fuel prices and everything going up, is because of them. If you know where the paperwork is and where to find it, it's there. I've got thousands and thousands of PDFs from archive.org. You know Archive? The website that's under attack from a DOD attack, and has been for months.
Why are they attacking it?
Because it holds so much information they don't want out. I've got loads. I've got this in my backpack. They don't want this information out because it exposes the very roots of this whole thing. They want to get rid of the farmers, seize the land cheaply, create a famine.
What is the depopulation agenda?
I think it will be biblical. I think it'll come through famine, war and pestilence. Famine will come because we're killing off our farmland with solar panels and wind turbines and making it very difficult to earn a living to be a farmer. I think the pestilence is all pharmaceutical company induced, and I think the war's on the doorstep.
Who's behind the agenda?
The people who look after the WF, which the United Nations. The United Nations has written up an Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. My council, Buckinghamshire Council, has implemented this agenda via the Buckinghamshire Growth Board, and their agenda goes through to 2050. And basically it's about bringing in net zero. And net zero, I think they relate to carbon, but I don't know, basic biology tells us we're all carbon-based life forms, so net zero ultimately means net us.
The writer's father died in 2015. The land had been allocated for potential development by the local council. Consequently, her two brothers and she were charged more than 200,000 in inheritance tax on land that had a nominal rental income of £150 a year. That's what they're doing. This is not just inheritance tax for the farmers. This is to take all farmland away from small farmers.
Why would the government allow this to happen?
Very good question. They clearly do not work for us. Whoever they work for, it is not for the people.
If you were to hazard a guess, who do you think they work for?
The hidden forces, for sure, isn't it?
For those that don't know, who are the hidden forces?
I don't know either, but there's clearly a cabal running the world, isn't there?
How can people fight back against the cabal?
Do not comply. Do not comply.
Farmers have never striked in the history of this country before, through 2 world wars, famines, diseases, and the fact now this government can bring it to that level says an awful lot.
When you've got the world situation you have at the moment, Ukraine, massive grain producer, at war with Russia, I think if you get rid of farms, small farms, medium-sized farms, then you are just getting rid of food that's produced locally. Everybody talks about carbon footprint. Well, if you're getting food produced in your own country, surely there's less of a carbon footprint.
The more farms we dig up, the less efficient we are. We've got to remember what happened in the Second World War, where we didn't have anything, and we were relying on imports coming over, which was being shelled and bombed by the Nazis. Go back and look at the history books and then perhaps learn a lot. We all need to learn and listen and understand what's going on. If we rely on overseas imports all the time, it's going to cost us a fortune. We need change. We're sick to death of the same two parties, Labour, Conservative, Labour or whatever. We need change, and unless that comes along, it ain't going to change this country anyway.
What does the change look like in your eyes?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm with reform. And I think that if we can get a party that will listen to what the people want and do, I've been a councillor before and I did make change happen. You need people that are streetwise and have lived a life, not people that come from university with no idea or anything else. They need to have a life to see what life's all about itself.
What motivates you to come down here today?
Well, look, I think that this government is honestly terrible. I think that the budget is really terrible, and I'm here to stand with the British farming community. They put food on the table for the entire nation. They've been treated horribly, and I'm here to express my support along with other members of Reform for the British farming community and to oppose Labour's budget, because I think it's awful.
How do you think Reform might have handled the budget differently?
Well, I think Reform would focus on trying to cut tax, trying to save taxpayers' money. We know a lot of money is being wasted. I think that Reform, they are more favourable of tax cuts rather than raising tax, and we wouldn't have had all these inheritance tax rises, national insurance rises, etc., which are causing a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs to leave this country and go to other places.
You might not like what I have to say.
Go for it.
It's planned. You've got these big investment companies like BlackRock and Vanguard, yeah? Okay? So they're taking over all the infrastructure globally. You will be happy and own nothing, right? We'll own everything. Everything will be predetermined, how you're going to live, where you're going to live, what you're going to eat, everything else.
A revolution will happen, but it can't happen through violence, because they've got the means to violence, they've got the machinery, the batons, the tear gas and all that. It has to happen through love and peace.
Think with reason. So many times we get caught up in these mindsets of, like, oh, this guy's that, oh, fuck Donald Trump. I don't like Donald Trump because I think he's racist, or he's homophobic or sexist. The propaganda machine tries to put these images in our heads, so when we think of something, we instantly block it out, and we can't see that reason, not just Donald Trump, but whatever it is. Or whether it's farmers, you might think, oh, farmers, they don't want to pay inheritance tax because they're rich. Whatever these things are, there's always reason, there's always nuance of everything. And if we as people can't come together and always get divided, whatever it is, when we're in pubs, when we're in bars as young people, if we always get divided and can't see the nuance and can't reason and talk and understand that people have different views and where they come from, then nothing's really ever going to get solved. And that's what we need, because there's big division going on right now. And yeah, man.
I'm not anti-immigration or anything like that, but I have to say, we're full.